Diagwiv, and good morning and welcome to this European Cities marketing session on IBTM Wired. I am Sam Johnson. I am the manager of Dublin Convention Bureau and I'm a vice president of European Cities marketing. And I'm your host and moderator for this session on harnessing the extensive powers of City Convention Bureau. And joining me this morning, I have three very dear friends who are recognized as thought leaders on our industry. I have Barbara Jemison from London Convention Bureau. I have Bettina. Morning. I have Bettina Reventlow-Maurier from wonderful Copenhagen. Hi, Bettina.
Hello there.
And I have Catherine Calamidas from the Convention Bureau at Rotterdam and Partners.
Morning.
Morning, morning. So with the session, what we're going to look at it, with so many types of city and national tourist boards, the individual power, facilitation and practical support a City Convention Bureau can provide to a meeting and event planner can be missed. And a recent report by Rob Davidson of Mice Knowledge, he highlighted that many corporate brands and meeting and event planners, they don't fully understand the role of the CVB and don't include them when planning their international business events. And we're not just here to provide images and promotional giveaways and subvention. And support can come in many different ways. And a CVB needs to be the first point of contact for planners. And in this way, we can help from a practical point of view, saving a client valuable time and money with hotel and venue searches, assisting with the concept of a business event, connecting brands with industry and sector networks and thought leaders as well. So listen, we want to box off and cover a few of those elements this morning. So we have a hell of a lot to cover in a short space of time. So let's jump straight in. And I want to get underway with City Convention Bureau. We're all different in structure, offering many similar supports and services that planners might, and I stress might, be familiar with, and some of which I've just mentioned. But at our heart, we want to bring business events to our cities. But we've evolved to provide much more, I think, haven't we? And I'm going to ask each of the panelists, tell me a bit about your CV, your CVB. And what do you measure on each year? Different stakeholders. Give us a wee bit more information. And let's start that with Catherine.
Sure. I mean, like many of the CVBs within this panel, also within ECM. In official terms, we are a nonprofit foundation. We're primarily funded by the municipality, like many CVBs. And our mandate is really specific. Our mandate is to stimulate the local economy by bringing in business events that align with the city's ambition, but also its top sectors. So we try to create, by bringing these in, we try to create a win-win situation. What's good for the city and our top sector, and that's the whole triple helix around the top sector as well. So academia, industry, government, is also good for the event and the event owner, the stakeholders, because they land in a high value ecosystem when the match is correct. That's primarily what we focus on as a CVB. That's sort of our mandate. And I would want to say, though, that in everyday terms, aside from that, because it sounds so lofty, in basic everyday terms, what we are is a team of events industry professionals that represent multiple links in the events industry chain, from the PCO to the association, to the hotel chain, to the major venue chain. We've all worked throughout that chain, and we have all of that expertise. We understand the client's needs because at one time or another, we've all been a client. And I think this is true for most CVBs. When you look at a CVB, what you need to see is usually 100+ years of very valuable experience in a sparring partner that is there to support you, usually, at least speaking for the group here, for free. We are subsidized. I think that is the number one thing that people have to remind themselves of. We're a high value resource that comes at no cost to you. We're only a benefit.
Absolutely, exactly. And Bettina, from a Copenhagen point of view, gives your side of it.
Well, I think Catherine summed it up, really. We could end this session now anyway. As for wonderful Copenhagen Convention Bureau, we are part of the DMO in the city, and we're funded both by government and by municipality, but also by 130 private partners. We were founded actually in the year when Denmark won the European Championship in football, which is 1992. So we are 30 years old. In the actual Congress team, we're 10 people bidding for international congresses. We also have 3 students. We bid for approximately 100 congresses a year, win approximately half. And what might be a little bit unusual in terms of CVBs, we're divided into sector specialties in the team. So for example, I work with energy and with some very specific life science areas. We're focused on IT, ICT, on life sciences and on clean tech. And we're measured obviously on heads on beds because that is important too.
Yep,
it does create economic turnover and it does create jobs. But in addition to that, we're also measured on the brand exposure, the legacy cases that we create, on research projects, on member satisfaction, and probably a bit uniquely, and that goes for the entire DMO, on citizen satisfaction. And we've obviously, like many other CVBs, developed enormously over the last decades, from primarily being a connector and facilitator to really taking this holistic approach to events, being a part of the entire closed ecosystem of that, and with a very strong focus on securing event success, both for the benefit of the association and its delegates, its sponsors and exhibitors, but also for the citizens that we serve and for the development of the society that we're part of, both nationally and globally. Primarily focus areas are legacy, sustainability, and innovation.
Very good. Very good. I like that, local citizen part as well, which is becoming more and more key for us and important for us. And last but not least, let's go to Buckingham Palace and Barbara, give us the London side of things. There it is.
So, thank you very much. Well, I agree completely with everything that Catherine and Bettina have just said, because we are all very, very similar. And I think the way we've evolved with all of our convention bureaus has followed a similar pattern. I would add to all of that practical support that we give London partners that we are also a non-for-profit organisation. So we receive our funding from the Mayor of London, from our local government, and also from a vast array of different stakeholders, including our Convention Bureau, hotel, venue, DMC partners. But I would add, I think we have really evolved from I've been lucky enough actually to be there on a 20-year journey, from 2001, when we were the London Tourist Board. And I think at that time, we received funding from the central government. We were very much there, not that much funding, low profile. We were there to help with a list of inquiries that we would send out regularly. Not much more than that, because we couldn't really do much more. So now, in 2021, with having gone through changes, we became a destination brand company almost when we became Visit London, to now a fully integrated DMO, Destination Management Organisation. And I think we are really there as advocates for our industry as well, and to keep the tourism and the business tourism industry sector top in mind with our stakeholders. And we've become so integrated now with our own mayoral department that the Deputy Minister for Business is our chair. So we provide practical help, just as Catherine does. We work with all of our sectors, just as Bettina does, and we have a legacy and corporate social responsibility projects. But as we are all seeing now, when there are major events happening in the world, it is important to remember the importance of our industry. And I would say that is one of our core remits at the moment.
Very good, very good. Yeah, and I think what has come through there very much as the Bureau, really we are an integral part of the ecosystem of a city, but with huge experience within the teams, to your point, Catherine, and not just for planners, but also for our suppliers and our stakeholders in the industry on the ground. Okay, listen, let's move on. I want to hear again from each of you, probably on this maybe slightly different angles, but what we said is there's broadly a common approach to what your bureau do and how you work with clients, but it will differ locally. So Barb, what is it that you the official bureau in London, I think that officialdom is key, because it means that, as you've said, it is a formal structure of varying stakeholders who very much recognize and work with each other, for the bureau. what is it that you do to support the planning of international business events whenever they're looking at London?
Mm-hmm. We really have two roles. One is the role to our partners to create platforms in market for them to connect with potential clients, and the same thing for the clients to connect with potential suppliers. So through the subsidy that we have, we enable our partners to maybe exhibit at trade fairs a cheaper way. We enable them to go on road shows. So all the usual things you would expect from a convention bureau with a sales and marketing plan. But I think for our clients, it's getting them really to get under the skin of our destination and really understand that we are not there just to provide them with subvention. And we actually, it's very rare that London provides a client with money. But what we do deliver is longer term growth for that company. You know, London is a huge city with nearly 9 million inhabitants. Yeah. We need to give that brand awareness where they might be lost. They might spend a lot of money on an event, but it might come and go and nobody really even knew it was there. Yeah. So we're really there to look at what the objectives are with different corporate clients, especially. Yeah. And enable them to make this, you know, to earn money and not just earn money on a 2-day event, but for them to get clients over the next 10 years, for them to be connected with the right sectors, as well as supporting our partners, you know, bringing in business to their hotels and their restaurants. So I think it's, you know, it's getting people basically to see a longer term and a bigger picture, really, is our main purpose.
Yeah. Very good. Very. And Catherine, simply, why should a planner use a convention bureau or CVB?
I mean, I would like to say as well that everything Barbara described is it's very well put. The last sentence in particular, it's long term and it's a bigger picture. But I think tapping into that, what you can say is that the CVB is your ideal sparring partner, because typically we're very neutral, so we'll be very honest and very balanced in everything we share with you. But also because you may have a specific perception of the city, or you think you know the city, speaking as Rotterdam, which is still a largely undiscovered city for these types of business events. But we know it best. We're locals. We know what's happening now, but more importantly, because we are so entrenched in the municipality, in the knowledge cluster, in the industrial cluster, as a DMO, we know what's coming. So we can help you anticipate. So we can help you tap into what is currently taking place in the city. So what the current value proposition is, and then creatively think with you to make use of what is on the horizon, which I think is not possible when you're just landing in a city on your own. In my own experience, crystal ball. Yeah.
You have a crystal ball. You can help see the future.
Yeah, we have a side door. That's what we have.
Very good, very good. And Bettina, I want to turn it around a wee bit. So imagine you went into consultancy to work with some of the associations who you know very well. What would you tell your clients with regards to why they should use local convention bureau, and what should they be asking us for?
Well, actually, I could just do a sum up of what Barbara and Catherine have been saying, because it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's about the fact that we all have a common goal. We all want to use these congresses and conferences as lever to improve our society. And by collaborating and co-creating, we are actually increasing the opportunities of success for all parties involved. Yeah. So, I mean, CVBs can also help, obviously, achieve the strategic objectives and goals of the association. You have to remember that it's not only the associations that are investing in their members and investing in their event, but a city is also investing in the infrastructure that's making this all possible. I mean, having the event in the destination, and CVBs are investing in being this neutral partner free of charge. So just summing up quickly, I mean, use them because they will be your best counselor and facilitator and interpreter in terms of the culture and then local regulations and the DNA of the destinations, and also an influencer if you're running into challenges. how they can be solved, because they obviously, the CVB is this nexus in this destination. Furthermore, the city CVB can share best practices of what's been done in the city before and how that particular event can be a success in this particular destination. And last but not least, continuity. So for example, we're part of Best Cities Global Alliance. We share knowledge amongst us of the events that come. So I have an event in Copenhagen. Next time comes to you, Sam, in Dublin. So I call you up and say, now, Sam, I'll tell you all I know about this event. So it secures some continuity, not only in the delivery and what the association wants, but also if you're doing legacy programs in order to bring a red thread through the events. What to ask for? That very much depends on what CVB. I mean, there are CVBs and there are CVBs, just like there are associations and there are associations. But I think what you need to move away from is the client-supplier terminology and into true partnerships. That requires transparency and honesty and consistency from all parties. And you need to be very clear about not only what you're asking for, but also the CVBs, what you do and how you do it and when you do it and where you are active in which part of the process. So whether you're only active in the bidding phase or whether it's also during the planning phase, during the Congress and afterwards in the evaluation.
Good. No, I think, yes. Listen, I know, yes, you could all answer it the same way, but I think, that's super. I think it's given a very broad range of, how we work and what we can do and what we can bring to events and planners, not just the planners themselves, but help with their events. Okay, quick fire question to each of you. We all love our clients, but have you ever had to say no to a client, Bettina?
Oh, happens all the time. And they also say no to me sometimes. Anyway, it's typically if there's a mismatch of what's being asked for and what can actually be delivered. Sure. I mean, it's all about, creating a mutual success. And typically, it could be if we can't meet the expectations, it could be on budget limits, or it could be services that we don't have and can't provide. Or it could be, which is also, which I've tried sometimes, paying a large fee to be allowed to bid for a Congress. We don't do that. Yeah. And Howard Business Review had an article about a year ago, when to say no. So I can sum it up in 3 things: when it's not allowed, not legal, when it cannot be done, or when it shouldn't be done.
That's very good. The last one in particular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Catherine, when have you said no?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this question in preparation for this, and I think I would rather just flip it around and say that certainly there are some congresses and events that just don't match the profile of the city. Again, we won't pay for a congress, like Bettina said. That doesn't fit our profile. We're a working city, a very hard working city, so that's just not going to happen here. And we're interested in co-creation. So whoever comes in, come in because we'll work with you. That's our value. But we always work in the best interest of the business event and its stakeholders, because a successful Congress is our best calling card. When the event is unforgettable in Rotterdam, then others will follow. So I would say that I like to say yes to the client, the right client, in the sense that we have 170 plus partners in the city, even post-COVID. However, if we don't find the solution among the existing, the right solution among the existing clients, we sell the city. We, in a sense, we're the key to the city. So if we don't find exactly the right match, we don't hesitate going outside that network in order to secure the business for the city, because what's good for one is good for all.
Course. Rising
so
tide
we don't,
boats.
Exactly.
Very good, very good. And Barb, surely you've never said no.
I could mention numerous times that we've said no. I think one of them was the Tropical Fruit and Nut Conference that wanted money from us. It was about the 10th one that we'd received that week that wanted money. But I think one that stands out, and I won't mention the name of it, we actually did host the conference in the end, and it was the most well-attended, most successful conference that they had ever had. But they were putting an awful amount of pressure on us constantly throughout the bidding process for money. And they just didn't seem to be listening. And then I think they did have a light bulb moment, and they realized that, we were there to make them their event money making, and very, very successful. And by coming to London and the way we tapped in and helped them tap into the networks, and what we also did, they were going to cannibalize another very similar conference happening around that same date in the same sector. So we were able to bring two competitor organizations together to agree that one would have an event in April and they would have their event in September, and we would create something in between. So we actually gave them a platform for nearly a year's worth of activity that they could then use to promote themselves. And from going from, I think the last conference they had, and I won't say where it was under 8,000 delegates. When it came to London, it was 11,500 delegates.
Wow.
And the cheapest ticket for those delegates, because they're in the financial sector, was £1,000, the cheapest. But you can imagine, the satisfaction on our faces when we had up
and I told
and
you
so.
So
The amount of money they were asking us for really paled into insignificance to the amount of money they actually made.
Very good, very good.
If I can just add one thing,
go on, of course.
Actually normally it's not no, it's a no thank you. But sometimes we're also forced to say no, not because we want to, because we have to, particularly when we have association congresses that require a local host. And depending on the actual responsibility loaded upon this local host. So I think that there is a conversation we should have around the role of local hosts if associations really want to go to the cities and they can't stamp up a local host who want to take that responsibility. We need to look at a different business model.
Yeah,
very much so. It can be burdensome, and we've seen it because some of our associations are so small, because a small nation, and it would put too much onto them at that stage. It's not fair. That's not their day job. I want to move on, and to Barbara and Catherine, following Bettina's consultancy piece, what are the best ways for a client to work with a CVB? I'm gonna go to Barb.
I would say to pick up the phone and have a really open and honest conversation with the CVB first.
You get so much out of that.
Really, identify the objectives. What we find so often is that we're the last to hear about it. We hear about it from our hotel chains. Did you know about this happening? We hear it from 3 DMCs that have been asked. And if only, that they would think they're actually asking 14 different types of companies the same question.
Yes.
And we hate to see that, because, our DMCs are fabulous, and so are our hotels and our venues, and it's wasting everyone's time. So if they just came to us in the beginning, we are not a competitor organization, and understanding that we're not competing with our partners, we're there really to bring everyone together and look at these objectives, whether it's a small incentive, for a high spend company, they're rewarding their best achievers, they want to make money for their company, or whether it's a huge citywide congress, to look at us as a partner. Just look at us free of charge, unbiased partner, bringing together the best people around the table.
Exactly. And Catherine, what would you add? On top of that?
I would echo that exactly, and say that I would say two things about this. I would rather say what not to do. So please do not enter the city via multiple channels. Please do not send your RFP to 5 PCOs, where 5 PCOs are contacting 5 hotels each, or 3. I don't know. Please don't do that. Come to the CVB first. We will streamline the process for you. That's what we're there for. We're there to take some of the work out of your hands. That's our added value. And I think that I would also point out that when you do not engage with the CVB, we cannot measure what's happening. Those measurements are crucial to the evolution of our side of the industry, which is the side which is interesting for you as well as a client. As the event stakeholder. There are associations, ICA, PCMA, ECM. We have data that we are basing policy decisions on, where we are pulling themes out of, where we're making future plans based on data. But if the data is incomplete because you don't let the CVB know you're coming into the city, it's a lose-lose. We lose, but you lose as well, because you don't have the benefit of our expertise.
Exactly. And this another quick fire one, and let's be swift for this as time is rapidly going ahead. As I wrote this, it sounded better in my head, but the give me a time when I suppose I said you give a pleasant surprise to a client. That you've given an insight from your city because you know it so well, and the client has went, "Wow, that's brilliant. That's an insight that I wouldn't have had." So, Bettina.
Well, apart from the fact that we have a harbor that's so clean you can swim in it, then then I had a client very recently who really wanted to do public outreach in, within that medical field that he was representing, and it just had such a headache around it. And I could present Copenhagen Legacy Lab to him and what the different stages of that project is and how we could actually help deliver on this. And the enthusiasm was enormous.
Very good, very good, Barb.
I think for me, it's really that emotional connection with the client, and when you see something that is really truly meaningful for them. And there's a couple of things I could mention. I mean, London is a city where lots of different races have made their home. The Vikings, Bettina, we've William, King of Orange, the Dutch at Hampton Court Palace. We had a really, really highly thought of professor from France. He was one of the ambassadors for this medical conference. And I was lucky enough to go to the dinner at the Royal College of Physicians, and they have a medieval medicinal garden there, Regent's Park. And they presented him with a French manuscript from the 14th century. And it was directly related to somewhere that he came from in France. And he was nearly in tears, because it was such a beautiful touch.
Yeah.
But I think what that really translates into is seeing the emotional connection.
Right. Yeah, that's always special. It really is. And Catherine, go on, give us what insight has been.
Maybe I'm just gonna jump to a slightly different topic, which is also a tangible example. I think that everyone who visited Rotterdam for Eurovision in May was surprised.
Yeah.
We're undiscovered, like I said, so that's slowly changing. And that personal touch is a big thing as well. I'm super passionate when my clients come to visit Rotterdam because I'm showing them around my home city and I love it. But the thing that happened with the Eurovision Song Festival, that we were able to trigger that triple helix of science and government and industry to pull together processes, procedures, expertise, technology, and a high level of professionalism to deliver a live event, or a hybrid event, if you count the 180 million who were behind their television sets, but 3,500 guests times 9 shows, plus 40 complex European delegations with music and food and laughter and city tours and a virtual Eurovision village, a rooftop rock concert across all of our spectacular rooftops in the city. That was possible to pull this off during the pandemic. Surprise, it's the thing that people experience when they come to Rotterdam. Even for the basic site inspection, they're so surprised, and it's fully encapsulated in what happened in May during Eurovision, which is a Rotterdam success story, but it's also a European success story because people came from all over. They were not afraid to come. They came, they visited, we stayed in the hotels, we had bubbles. It was brilliant.
And it was phenomenal. It was brilliant to see. The atmosphere certainly wasn't lost, and without doubt the legacy and the impact, again, not just locally, but certainly across Europe and beyond, will live.
It was hopeful,
many memories. It was without a doubt, totally. And yes, put Rotterdam on the map again. As you usually say. And I think you've touched on a couple of elements there that are very much hot topics for the destinations, the legacy or impact, but as well as that sustainability. So how do I'll come to the Barbara first. How does your CVB bring their connector ability to the fore when it comes to these issues?
Sustainability has always been of huge importance to not only the Convention Bureau, but also to the Mayor, with London being a first garden city, pollution, etc., etc. So it's always been hugely important to us. But it's really been ramped up. I think everyone's seen that over the last couple of years with the different movements that there are. And so it's really now a crucial factor in the decision-making process for many, many clients as to which destination they will choose. There are wonderful initiatives that our partner hotels are involved with, our restaurants, our venues, and they have been for many, many years. So again, in a city as big as London, it's about giving them a voice, and it's about acting as a catalyst so that, you know, the people need to hear what is happening. And that's translated and it's workable for the clients. Because on average, a business event will come to your city, on average, it will be for 2 nights. But the longer term legacy, and that includes for us as a financial city, green finance as well. You know, we are now actively going out for specific congresses that match the sustainability remit of the city. And that I think has changed. And we're looking for, you know, sustainable type of businesses as well to set up in our city and then create their own events. So we're looking very much at the circular economy, and then I think really acting as a vehicle so that we can translate what sustainability actually means to the event planner, because it can mean an awful lot of things to an awful lot of people.
Absolutely. Very that's super. I know that JMIC, the Joint Meetings Industry Council, are doing some work as well with other global bodies on the sustainability side of things for our industry. Bettina, listen, we could probably have a full day session on Copenhagen and sustainability and legacy or impact, but in a couple of minutes, tell us what it means and how your bureau relates these issues.
Sustainability and legacy is really central to everything that we do. And I think this pandemic has also amplified the fact that people, planet, profit, and purpose is going to be absolutely central in the transformation of our industry, and also some of the key drivers in the recovery of it. We as an industry fly thousands of people into our destinations. We need to deal with creating long-term positive impact from the events that we do, and we have to make sure that they are as sustainable as they can. Very briefly, we've created 3 relevant tools for our audience out here. one, an SDG dialogue tool, which is really almost like a card game. So you can have a dialogue on different sectors of the planning of your event, which is relevant and how they relate to the SDGs. We've just come out with a new sustainability manual where you can choose which levels of ambitions that you have, and you get some pieces of advice as how you can best deliver a green and sustainable event. And then, of course, we created Copenhagen Legacy Lab. The folder can be downloaded on our website. It's all about a strategic and systematic approach to how you can develop activities that can lead to both the short-term meeting impacts, but also long-term positive impacts. All about alignment of vision mission statements, identification of stakeholders, going back to the stakeholder part, creating ideation workshops, monitoring, evaluating, and measuring on that impact. And we're using our alliances network to deliver on that. And just 2 seconds, it's very important to stress out that it doesn't necessarily have to be new resources that we try and find, but it could also be identifying which research projects already have resources in this, or where could there be other existing resources available that we can bring together in order to creating this.
That's great. Listen, brilliant. These issues, they're playing out across every bureau that we talk to, and as usual, Copenhagen are doing brilliant things on it, and all such positive effects that we as an industry, both the bureau, but as well as that our clients, we can deliver, not just for local but global communities, and I'm working to deliver
and if
them.
I can.
Go on.
And Sam, if I can just add to that, a part of sort of the holistic and sustainable approach to that is the fact that we share all this information. Exactly. We're moving away from really being tribal and keeping everything to ourselves, and we're all competitors, to being planetary and sharing our knowledge and insights, and really building everyone better in this.
Exactly. I think Catherine referred to it earlier in a discussion that we'd had recently, as open source because, and it's just continual progression and evolution and betterment.
Yeah, and if I can just add quickly, in the sense of recovery, that open source element is so crucial, and it can't just come from the supplier side. I know we said we're not going to say client supplier, but for the ease of reference, not just from the side of the DMO or the venue supplier or the hotel chain or whatever, but it has to come also from the client. We need to work together on it. And recovery for one is not recovery. It has to be recovery across the globe for every link in the chain. Otherwise, we're not going to come back from it. And making everything open source is the key. And it's the approach we had from the beginning when we started to experiment. We've done a few different things in Rotterdam, from the convention hub, where we looked at cross-sectoral innovations, so a little bit of multidisciplinary innovations. Then we went fully into the Rotterdam experiment, where we took emerging technologies and tested them with people attending the sessions. We tested them together, VR, AR, gamification, to see what works for the event of the future. And everything that happened with Eurovision is sort of the tail end of that process, plus the field lab events that the Netherlands launched. And all of that will be fully shared, all findings, all measurements, everything, at the next Rotterdam experiments, which will be in September. So I encourage everyone to join. If you're curious to know, how did they do the bubbles with the city tours? How did they create the Eurovision virtual village? How did they upscale? How did they scale up the virtual solutions to be possible also for when the live guests were there, which is what we ended up doing. How do you work with scenarios? How do you get science, technology, industry to talk to each other the right way? These are all things that we want to share openly, because recovery for one is not recovery.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. Can't wait to hear that.
If I could just give a shout out to European Cities Marketing, because for me, that's what I love about the association that we all belong to. The ethos is meet, share and grow. And I think collaboration is key, to everything.
Of course it is. Right, time is nearly beaten us, right? So very, very quickly, I have one more question for you. Before we wrap up, we've covered the positive that you have brought the clients, but what about the other way around? Starting with Bettina, tell us, or tell our audience about an event that you've really loved working on in 30 seconds.
Well, I'll do it in 30 seconds and I'll pick three. I've got Wind Europe Electric City this year. I've got the World Water Congress next year, and I've got the Union of International Architects in 2023. And common for all of them is that there's a really strong purpose and legacy and sustainability at the core of these events. So it truly does make a positive change. There's an enormous engagement around this event. I mean, there are hundreds of stakeholders working on that, and a very strong collaboration and co-creation. And finally, and back to what Barbara said about, the sort of emotional ties of city and event, we formed some true and long-term relationships with these associations and with the local hosts that really do turn into true friendships.
Very good, very good. And quickly, Barb, before we...
I think One Young World stands out for me.
Very good.
It was fabulous. Words can't really describe it.
It's a brilliant event, isn't it?
Went into that at the Royal Albert Hall. It was just beautiful. And I think one of our own events that we have created, and this is, looking at the step change of being reactive to now being creative is London Technology Week.
Very good.
Because that was, again, a couple of events that nobody really knew about, and I think we transformed that to a citywide festival of technology in 2014 that is getting stronger and stronger every year, and it gives everyone the chance. Even if you haven't got a budget, you can put on an event for free, and so that to me, I think that it's those two things that stand out.
And Catherine, other than Eurovision?
Yeah, well, I mean, two very quickly, EcoCity World Summit, which is going to be here live in September, and is really an example of, it's a mirroring of Rotterdam as an ecological urban planning center of excellence. Everything that's happening in the city is focused on that climate adaptation. But also, and I think we share this, Sam, IFLA's World Library Information Congress, which was a spectacular bid to be part of. Number one, because they have the best bid manual. Associations, if you're out there, download the bid manual. This is a masterclass in designing a bid manual, clear, no doubt in who does what and how it works, very, very well put together, easy to report on it. But also in both of these cases, in fact, but especially I think probably with the Library Congress, our knowledge ambassador network, the way we worked with them, the bidding committees, how they come together, how they trigger each other. It was just amazing to witness it and to have the privilege of supporting them and then celebrating the win with them. So those are two examples.
Very good. Yeah, and Dublin and Rotterdam will have IFLO for the next 2 years. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you. Thanks so much to the three of you for sharing so much this morning. For me, as always, it's been a pleasure to chat with you and to learn from you. Unfortunately, time has got the better of us. But listen, I suppose just to sum up, so many positive effects that we as an industry, bureaus, clients, we can deliver by collaborating and working together. And as I said earlier, for both the local and the global communities that we exist in. And in working to deliver these, it can also be tricky, similar to regulations around compliance, contracting, tax, and that. And thankfully, English is the international language of our industry. But again, that's where the CVB can really come into its own by translating and relaying those local regulations and helping our clients to understand and not to be confused and just receive the best experience. So to our audience watching, go on, unlock our cities through the local convention bureau. It'll bring so many positives and benefit you more than you might actually realize. And listen, just to very, very quickly sum up, summary from what we have shared or what you guys have shared with the audience this morning and a couple of takeaways. Convention bureaus are without doubt, we're enablers. We can, and we've shown that we can be catalysts for good. We're honest and we can say no to clients if it's the right thing to do. We're not just here to provide subvention, and we only want the best for our planners and our clients and their attendees. And I suppose that was the session. There's just a couple of other things, I suppose, before we sign off very quickly. I just want to say a big thank you to the team at IBTM for inviting European cities to be part of the Wired program. And for us at European Cities, we understand the challenges that we as an industry face. We've heard that from you guys this morning as well. The world around us and our own industry they're changing at a rapid pace. With future is very difficult to predict, even with Catherine's crystal ball. But ECM's ideal is to meet and share to grow, with which Barbara said, and that relates very directly to what we have discussed. But we also, we have our own initiatives to help us through the crisis, and we launched our first ever mentee program a year ago. It's the brainchild of Bettina, and privileged to work on it as part of the team to deliver it, with over 60 young professionals being individually mentored by our global leaders across our industry. And we're going to launch the second one of those in the coming weeks. And then at the end of August, registration is now open for our summer school, which again is virtual this year and open to all levels within our industry. So we have a superb lineup of faculty already for that. So if you're interested to find out more, and these discussions will continue into the summer school, go to the ECM website to register. But listen, my thanks again to my dear friends on the panel, to IBTM, and to the head office of European Cities Marketing and the wider ECM membership for helping us to put this together. All the very best to each and every one of you watching. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you all soon in person somewhere. Slán.